Hope of a V-shaped recovery fades. Let's have a look. Good morning, everyone. I'm Florian.Heise, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I've got my morning stein of coffee that I'm still working through, and I thought we'd have a look at this analysis piece from the ABC, written by Michael Jander. He's discussing, the Qantas cuts as a foreshadowing of the economic issues that we're facing, and really dismissing any talk of a V-shaped recovery. Remember, everyone was saying V-shaped recovery, V-shaped recovery. All the young people jumping into the stock market for the first time. The footy guy who pretty much was just guessing. The people buying into tourist businesses like airlines and hotels were anticipating a V-shaped recovery. Remember that fantastic analysis of the young lawyer? Oh, I think people are locked up. They're going to want to go on holidays. In the long run, she might be right, but there may be a lot of room to move before it hits that. Yesterday, and I'm bringing up trading economics here just so we can see, the market took a big hit. The news from Qantas apparently sent a lot of shares down. There we go, 2.48% down. Now, I'm assuming the trading halt will be lifted from Qantas, and we'll have to see what happens to their price when the market opens today, or what else goes on. There you go. It's definitely interesting times. It takes a brave person to jump into the market at the moment, particularly if you've never been in there. It's the problem. Psychologically, we're used to seeing numbers this high on the index and shares at a high level. So it all looks a lot cheaper. So people jump in thinking it's cheaper. The same thing happened with Hertz. Retail investors were buying a bankrupt company off the wealthy 1%ers. So you've got to be careful, guys. The other argument is people are expecting money print to go brr, so they're jumping into the market as the only way they can get something of that. That could be another reasoning behind it. We really are living in a clown world, aren't we? We really are. So Qantas cuts show how slow the economy's recovery from the pandemic will be. I think Qantas is the beginning of it. The first examples. This is not going to be V-shape, everyone. What do you think? Do you think it will be L-shape? Do you think we'll be V and down? Is this what we're seeing here? Will this be remembered as a dead cat bounce in the market? We'll jump out a bit further. There we go. Have we reached the peak of the bounce? We'll have to see, everyone. Do you think we'll hit 3,000 on the ASX 200? Does it even matter what the realistic actions of the business are? It's just all the news and the hope and the hype. So if you thought the pandemic crisis was going to be short, sharp, and soon over, did anyone think that? I guess the property spruikers did. Qantas CEO Alan Joyce has a message for you. The impact will be felt for some time, he said, in the same press conference where he told reporters that he didn't expect international services to resume in the next financial year, which is just about to start. So a year, so the back end of 2021. This will be an interesting year to remember, to reflect on, everyone. That means Joyce is expecting Australia's international border to remain closed, at least for tourists, until July next year. Even when the border reopens, he's expecting the number of international flights in 21-22 to be just half of what they were before the pandemic, and only back to 2/3 the following financial year. This is a very different world from the globe-trotting lifestyle many Australians were leading before the pandemic, where a jaunt to Bali had become almost as commonplace and often cheaper than a road trip up or down the coast. He's right there. He's right. It's so bloody expensive to go around Australia. I was watching a episode on YouTube from Australian Story, where they were talking to the remaining Leyland brother. Remember the Leyland brothers, everyone? And I grew up watching them on repeat as a kid. I'm not that old, everyone, but I loved them. And it was interesting. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you track it down and have a look. But, that was all about exploring Australia, going out bush, going camping, and seeing the beautiful nation that we have. We camping is pretty much the only holidays we can afford to take now because we've got so many kids. Sticking us all in a hotel room, those days are over. They're never happening again. But getting them out there camping, cooking on the barbecue, it's wonderful. I love it. The only problem is it's getting expensive too, because all these campsites are getting bought up, and you've got to spend a lot of money there. Everything costs bloody money these days. Maybe I should find a website on cheap free camping sites. Anyway, back to the article, because he's right. A lot of people were used to going to Bali. The Qantas boss is more optimistic about domestic travel, expecting that to get back to 70% of the pre-pandemic levels this financial year, and totally back to normal in 21-22. This is, of course, assuming that regional outbreaks like Victoria's recent spike can be contained and state borders will therefore reopen. But make no mistake, this is a far from worst-case scenario. As Alan Joyce said, the airline already had cash in the bank that gave us enough runway to get to the end of 2021 with no borders opening and the environment in place. Yet the Qantas management and board saw it prudent to hit shareholders up for an extra $1.9 billion to take advantage of opportunities that emerge after the crisis ends. No doubt in the hope there will be some bargains to be had snapping up airlines that were much worse state going into the crisis. However, Joyce also observed that with the equity raised today, that gets us through into 22-23. I don't think anybody is forecasting that this will continue that long. We have other bigger problems if this continues well into that period of time, he said. So kiss goodbye to the V-shaped recovery. Was any pundit still talking about it in the media? Did anyone still believe that we would see a V-shaped recovery? Regardless, the move to permanently cut more than 6,000 jobs and save around $1 billion a year in costs proves Qantas doesn't see a rosy outlook or so-called V-shaped recovery, even when international borders fully reopen. And it's not alone. A report out on Thursday from S&P Global Ratings, one of the three giant credit rating agencies, predicts it will take until at least 2023 for airlines to get back to where they were in 2019. And just think about that. So this may be a half decade of, just recovering. While consumers may be permitted to fly, ongoing and uncertain restrictions and the loss of confidence by passengers will likely keep air travel below 2019 utilization levels through to 2023, the analysis warned. Well, that's the thing as well. I mean, people are going to be scared. They're going to avoid planes. Isn't planes just the worst place to go if you don't want to get sick? Every time you go on a plane, you get sick. Isn't that what they're designed for? To magnify viruses inside them? It feels like it. More broadly, we expect consumers to make permanent shifts in how they work, shop, and spend their leisure time, even after a vaccine becomes available. Or if, we should be saying if one becomes available. And yes, I think there will be permanent shifts in behavior. I'm talking to more and more people that are doing everything they can to work from home. It's going to be a cultural shift. It's not necessarily a bad thing. There are certain benefits you can have from working from home. Just removing the commute. That by itself is fantastic. Now we've been video conferencing for the past few months. Will there be as many business trips? Probably not, given that most firms are desperately trying to cut costs to survive the pandemic and will be hoping to keep them down as they recover lost profits. Even if a vaccine becomes available, will people who are still unemployed or on reduced hours or facing deferred mortgages or rental debts really be opening up their wallets for a holiday? Exactly. This is the thing. I think people are going to tighten their belts. I think a lot of people are going to have a never again moment. I think a lot of people are going to have to be quite humbled, and it's not going to be an easy time. Now's the time to check on your mates. Now's the time to reach out on people, just to build, to re-establish or solidify those relationships you have with people that may be suffering a bit worse than you are. And I know if you're, a prepper, you've got your 6 months worth of food, you've got your pile of silver and gold, you've got a stack of cash stashed away for this. It may be, you may be tempted to gloat and say, why didn't you prepare? And I understand. I understand. But some people, are gonna just need some emotional support to get through these times. That's where watch the Leyland brothers, because that's a story actually of riches to rags, millions of dollars down to pretty much nothing, because they were building a theme park or a tourist destination, Leyland World, and then interest rates shot up to 18% to crazy levels, and they lost everything. And it was interesting to see how they were building back up again. Encouraging. The kangaroo in the coal mine. This is why Qantas is something of a kangaroo in the coal mine for Australia's entire economy. We often think of air travel as an essential part of modern life. It isn't. The pandemic itself has demonstrated how life goes on, albeit perhaps diminished, without global or even domestic travel. That's one reason why industry forecaster IBISWorld expects more than 7,000 tourist operators to go out of business in Australia due to the pandemic recession. It's also why it expects that it will take until 24-25 for new businesses to replace the ones that folded. And that's the sad reality, everyone. But this doesn't just apply to airlines and tourism. How many of us are going to be working more often from home even after the pandemic ends? What effect will that have on cafe spending, especially in CBDs, as people go out less often? Well, I'm a perfect case study of that. When we had our office, even in Yeronga there, we had it in West End too. I'd get my coffee. I'd often get a few a day. And frankly, that would add up. Where now, me going out for coffee these days, because God, this is instant. This isn't luxurious coffee that I'm drinking here by the half liter. But when I go out now, I know some people are going to find that hard to believe, instant coffee. But studying architecture, lots of late nights back at uni, you build a tolerance for crappy coffee. You really do. And I hate to admit it, I actually quite enjoy the Aldi instant coffee. Don't hold that against me. But, even now when I go for coffee, I'll go to 7-Eleven and get a $1 coffee. I won't go to a coffee shop anymore. I can't spend $5 on a coffee, everyone. I think I have a problem now. I can't do it. I'm too used to the $1 ones. What impact will the accelerated shift from physical to online retailing have, as shop assistants are replaced by warehouse staff and delivery drivers? Moreover, how long will it take for consumer spending just to return to pre-pandemic levels as unemployments remain high into 2022 and probably well beyond, especially once increased government benefits such as JobKeeper and Job Seeker come to an end? And here's the thing, the Job Seeker bonus, pulling that away, it's going to be quite cruel to a lot of people. The problem is you don't want it so high to disincentivize working. If you've got a crap job and you do that, what's the difference in earning capacity between sitting on JobKeeper, Job Seeker and not? So governments stand between recession and depression. The difference between a recession and a depression is whether you get stuck into a downward spiral of falling demand and prices, rising unemployment and falling wages, and falling consumption that then leads to further declines in demand. While Qantas's cost-cutting makes complete sense from an individual business point of view, if too many Australian companies take the same approach, then Australians will start to find out what a depression's downward spiral looks like. In a capitalist economy, you can't fault Qantas for its move. As an airline, it's been uniquely hit by this. Well, we're not really a capitalist economy. We're an interventionist, crony capitalist economy. But don't worry, that's something. We'll discuss that later. As an airline, it's been uniquely hit by this crisis, and it has a legal obligation to act in the best interests of its shareholders and make sure it survives the pandemic and returns to profit. That's why it's up to governments, whose obligation is to the society that elects them, to step in with support and stimulus, as they have done fairly effectively up to this point, to make sure that the cost-cutting and job losses don't get out of control. Like the virus itself, once cost-cutting becomes too widespread in the community, it becomes difficult and costly for authorities to contain it. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry, the RBA will just shut down entire markets. That's how they'll intervene next. Then they'll just bail in everyone's money. They'll find ways. Don't worry. I'm only being half facetious there. Sadly. So there we have it, everyone. Is Qantas a foreshadowing of the economy? And is the much hoped for V-shaped recovery officially dead, as ABC declared it? I think so. What do you think, everyone? I've been, well, quite skeptical of the arguments for a V-shaped recovery for some time. And we'll just have to see what happens moving forward. I feel sorry for the people that have lost their jobs here. I feel sorry for the people who are stood down and don't know what's happening, or in the unknown. In some ways, that's even worse. It's going to be a tough couple of years, everyone. Let me know if you still cling to hopes of a V-shaped recovery. Or do you think it'll be a few years of downward turn? Do you think the government can avoid Australia hitting a depression? Or do you think it's kind of inevitable now? Too much wealth disparity. There's definitely a class divide in wealth in this country. There definitely is. We'll have to see what happens. As always, thanks for watching. Please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. Simply watching and interacting helps beat the YouTube algorithm, helps promote the content. You can support us financially by joining us on YouTube or Patreon, or using our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can support us by buying our merch, using Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. I'll talk to you next time.